Mother told the entire family that I was dead to her, so I made sure she would never find me. I only found out my mother had declared me dead when my cousin accidentally added me back into the family group chat and then immediately tried to delete the message. I was on my lunch break at work, half eating a microwave pasta, when my phone lit up with a notification from a thread I didn't recognize. Family, drama. I tapped it, saw my name tag in a fresh message, and then watched the 3 dots appear as someone hurried to unsend it. But they weren't fast enough. The screenshot was still there, my mother's profile picture at the top, the little thumbnail of her filtered face. Underneath, her words in a neat blue bubble. As far as I'm concerned, Anna is dead to me. I don't want to hear her name again. She made her choice when she lied about Mark. She's not my daughter anymore. My vision pulsed. Heat rushed into my face, then dropped all the way down to my feet. My fork slipped out of my fingers and clanged against the plastic container. I had this ridiculous, sharp thought. I'm right here, as if she could hear me back through the screen. It was a Sunday afternoon when everything really started to come apart. Nearly a year before the dead to me text, I was sitting on my therapist's couch, twisting a tissue into smaller and smaller pieces, when she asked a question that felt like a trap and a lifeline at the same time. What would you do differently if you believed you were allowed to leave? For context, I'm 32 now. I grew up in what people politely call a complicated household. My father died when I was 8, which everyone agrees was tragic. What fewer people acknowledge is that my mother was already a storm before that. His death just meant there was no one else left to occasionally stand between her and the rest of us. My mom, Claire, cares about 2 things: how things look and how much people owe her. We lived in a small, constantly tidy house where the cushions were always plumped and no one dared leave shoes by the door in case someone sees. She had this smile she could switch on like a light whenever we were around other people, neighbors, teachers, relatives. At home, the smile went off and everything became about control. When I was little, I thought all moms kept running tallies in their heads of how much children cost. Mine would say things like, "Do you know how many hours I had to work for that backpack?" If I forgot to zip it, or "Most kids would be grateful to have a mother who cares enough to check their homework." Love and debt were the same currency in our house, and the interest rate was cruel. She liked to threaten abandonment the way other parents threaten grounding. If I pushed back on anything, wearing the dress she chose, calling to say I'd be 10 minutes late, she'd say, "You keep this up and I'll be done with you. You'll be dead to me. Do you understand?" The first time, I was 10, and I cried so hard I made myself sick. By 15, I learned that dead to me just meant 3 days of silence followed by her asking what I wanted for dinner like nothing had happened. We weren't totally alone. There was my little brother, Josh, 3 years younger and the golden child. And there were the aunts, uncles, cousins, and grandparents who floated in and out of our lives in this orbit that always took my mother's version of events as gospel. Claire's had it so hard, they'd say, "You kids need to be kinder to her." Things escalated when Mark appeared. Mark was the kind of man my mother had always wanted to show off. 6 years younger than her, tall, worked in IT, knew how to talk about wine. He showed up when I was 19 and home from my first year of uni, bringing over a bottle of red and an annoying confidence. I remember the first dinner with him so clearly. Mom had made lasagna and put out the good plates, the ones we weren't allowed to touch as kids. Mark complimented her cooking, told a couple of stories about his job, and then turned to me. "So you're the clever one?" he said. "What are you studying again?" "Psychology," I said. He grinned. "So you're going to be analyzing us all the time, huh? Better watch what I say." It was a joke, but my mother's eyes flickered with something I didn't understand then. Later I would realize it was wariness. People like her hate when you have words for their behaviors. At first, Mark seemed fine. He fixed our Wi-Fi, helped with the garden, made my mother laugh in a way I hadn't seen since my dad died. Josh adored him because he took him to football games and bought him a new pair of trainers just because. The first time he crossed a line with me, we were in the kitchen alone. I was looking for a mug in the cupboard when he came up behind me and squeezed past in a way that pressed his whole front against my back. His hand accidentally brushed my hip. "Excuse me," he said, but he didn't move away. I froze. I could smell his aftershave, feel his breath near my ear. My brain did this thing it always did at home, where it tried to decide if I was overreacting. Maybe the kitchen is just small. Maybe I'm being dramatic. He finally stepped away, but his hand lingered on my waist a second too long. When I turned, he was already at the sink, rinsing a glass like nothing had happened. Stuff like that kept happening. Little things. A hand on my shoulder that slid down too far. A comment about how you're going to break hearts if you're not careful, Anna said at the end of the night when everyone else had gone to bed. Once, he squeezed my knee under the table during dinner. I jerked away and knocked my fork on the floor. What's with you? Mom snapped as I scrambled to pick it up. Nothing, I muttered, cheeks burning. I tried to convince myself I was misreading it. I was 19, not a child, and I'd grown up being told I was oversensitive. The few times I tried to hint to Mom that Mark made me uncomfortable, she shot it down. You just don't like seeing me happy, she said once, narrowing her eyes. It's always about you, isn't it? So I did what a lot of people do. I avoided being alone with him. I spent more time at my uni share house. I got a part-time job that meant I could only come home on Sundays, sorry. I counted down the days until Josh turned 18, and I could stop worrying about him being left alone with Mark when I wasn't there. But the universe apparently decided I hadn't had enough character development. When I was 23, Mom got sick. Not dying sick, but enough that she needed help. She ended up in hospital for surgery and recovery. And when she came home, someone had to be there. Josh was in his final year of school, drowning in exams and football training. Mark had an important project at work. The unspoken assumption was that I, the unmarried daughter with a flexible job, would move back in for a while. You're the only one she listens to, Aunt Sandra said on the phone, guilt already thick in her voice. You know how she is. She needs you. I moved home. Again. I slept in my childhood bedroom with a peeling One Direction poster still half stuck to the wardrobe. I did her bandage changes, cooked her meals, listened to her complain about the nurses. Mark hovered, helpful when she was watching, uninterested when she wasn't. The night everything snapped, I was in the laundry. Mom had gone to bed early. Josh was out with friends. Mark came in carrying a basket. You're a good kid, he said, setting it down and stepping closer. Your mom's lucky to have you. I nodded, keeping my eyes on the pile of towels. Someone has to do it. He laughed. Someone, he repeated, and then he was right next to me, hands sliding up my spine, fingers pressing into the back of my neck. You always were the responsible one. Always so serious. I stepped forward, away from him. My heart was pounding so fast I could hear it in my ears. Don't, I said. Don't what? He asked, all injured innocence. Don't say nice things? I turned around, back against the washing machine now. You know what? I said. My voice shook. He looked at me for a long moment. Then he smiled, small and smug. You should be careful, Anna, he said. People might think you're imagining things. You know how your mom gets when you stir up drama. Something in me, something that had bent and bent and bent for years, finally snapped instead of bending again. I'm not imagining you touching me, I said. You've been doing it for years. In the kitchen, at the table. You know what you're doing. His smile dropped. Careful, he said again, but there was no warmth in it now. You make a little allegation like that, people are going to have questions. About your mental health. About what you really want. It was textbook gaslighting, and the fact that I could label it in my head was the only thing that kept me from collapsing. All those hours in psych lectures, all those case studies, it was like I could see the script he was reading from. I'm going to tell her, I said. He laughed then, full on. Tell her what? He asked. That I brushed past you in the kitchen? That I put my hand on your shoulder? Do you have any idea how needy that sounds? I pushed past him and went straight to my mother's room. She was propped up in bed, scrolling on her phone, reality, show muted on the TV. Mom, I said, breathless. I need to talk to you. She didn't look up. Is the washer finished? She asked. Don't forget to hang my good top on a hanger, not the line. It stretches. Mom, I said again, more urgently. Mark's been making me uncomfortable for a long time, and tonight She held up a hand like a traffic cop. Stop, she said. Then she did look at me, eyes narrowed. I know what this is. My stomach flipped. What? You hate that I'm happy, she said. You always have. You can't stand seeing me with someone who takes care of me. That's not. And because you're jealous and miserable in your own life, she continued, her voice rising, you have to invent some story to make him the bad guy, so you could be the martyr again. I felt like I'd been slapped. I'm not inventing anything, I said. He's been touching me in ways he shouldn't. Oh, please, she snapped. You're not that irresistible, Anna. Not everything is about you. The part of me that was still the 10-year-old who wanted her to believe me shrank back. The adult part, the one who'd learned the phrase emotional abuse, stood its ground. I need you to take this seriously, I said. If you don't, I'll talk to someone else. A counselor. Maybe Josh should stay somewhere else until. Her face changed. The rage sharpened. If you spread lies about him, she said, low and dangerous, you are dead to me. Do you hear me? I will cut you off so fast you won't know what hit you. You're choosing him over me, I said, the words shaky but clear. I am choosing not to let my unstable daughter ruin my relationship, she said. You've always had a flair for the dramatic. You did this with teachers, with friends, always playing the victim. That wasn't true. I'd had conflicts, sure, but who doesn't as a teenager? It didn't matter. In that moment, with the TV flickering blue light over her furious face, I understood something I'd been avoiding for years. There was no version of this story where I was believed. I left. Physically, I mean. I grabbed my keys, my bag, my wallet, and walked out. I slept on a friend's couch. The next day, I messaged my aunt and told her I needed somewhere for Josh to go because I didn't trust Mark. That set off the first explosion. Aunt Sandra insisted on mediation. A few days later, we ended up sitting in her living room. Me, Mum, Mark, and Sandra. The idea was that everyone would share their side, and we'd find a way forward. I told my side. The touches, the comments, the way he cornered me in the laundry. I kept my voice as calm as I could. Mark put on his best wounded expression. I have never touched you inappropriately, he said. Maybe I misread boundaries once or twice. Our house is small, but I would never. She's always been like this, Mum said. She twists things. She hears tone where there isn't any. Sandra looked uncomfortable. Is it possible there were misunderstandings? She asked me. Histoire de hair. You mean, is it possible I imagine his hand on my waist? I asked. Her mouth tightened. Maybe we all need to take a break, she said. After that, the family split into camps. A few cousins believed me quietly, texting, I'm so sorry, and happened to me once with a step-uncle, I get it, but no one wanted to be the one to openly take my side against my mother. Grandma cried and said, can't you just reconcile? Life is short. Mum blocked my number. She told people I was spiraling, that I was making up abuse to get attention. I found out months later that she'd been telling extended family I had a history of hallucinations and self-harm, neither of which was true. It was like she'd opened my life in her hands and started rearranging the facts until she'd built a story where she was the hero again. That's where the therapist comes in. I started seeing her after a coworker slipped me her card. You talk about your mom like she's a weather event, my coworker said. Might be worth having someone help you forecast. For months, I sat on that couch and justified my mother. She had a hard life. She's not that bad. It could have been worse. My therapist listened, occasionally asking questions that tugged at loose threads. Then, that Sunday, she asked, what would you do differently if you believed you were allowed to leave? Histoire de hair. Leave what? The relationship, she said. The obligation. The idea that you owe your mother endless access to you because she gave birth to you. If that weren't true, what would you do? The answer came out before my brain could filter it. I'd move, I said. I'd change my number. I'd block all of them. I'd stop giving them space in my head. She nodded. What stops you? She'd lose it, I said. She'd tell everyone I abandoned her, that I'm evil. She'd say I was dead to her. She already did that, my therapist pointed out gently, and she had. By that point, I'd already heard from a cousin that Mum was introducing herself at gatherings as a mother of one, as if I'd never existed. Grandma had called once, tearful, to tell me that your mother says you're gone, but I know my granddaughter is still in there somewhere. I think that's when something truly shifted. If I was already dead in her narrative, I realized then I was actually free in a very specific way. Dead people don't have to return calls. Dead people don't have to sit through Christmas dinners with men who hurt them. Dead people, as far as their abusers are concerned, don't owe them anything. So I made a plan to become dead to her in the only way that mattered. I erased the path she could use to get to me. It wasn't impulsive. If anything, it was meticulous. I got a notebook and made lists like I was planning a move because I was just not only a physical one. First, I moved. I've been living in the same city as my family, partly out of inertia, partly out of that weird hope that maybe we'd fix things. I applied for a job 2 states away, in a city I'd visited once and loved. It was a lateral move, same role, different organization. When they offered it to me, I said yes before I could talk myself out of it. I didn't tell my family I was going. I told my boss, my close friends, my landlord. I updated my address with the bank, the tax office, my insurance. When I gave HR at the new job my emergency contact, I put my best friend's name instead of my mom's for the first time in my life. Next, I changed my number. That was weirdly emotional. I'd had the same one since I was 16. I knew it by heart, the rhythm of it, a kind of identity. At the phone store, when the guy behind the counter said, "You know you'll lose all your texts, right?" I felt a flash of panic. Good, I said. That's the point. I deleted my social media accounts instead of just blocking people. Years of photos, posts, tags. Gone. It felt like cutting my hair off in the bathroom mirror and watching it fall into the sink. Lighter and disorienting. For the legal side, I went further. I changed my last name. Not in a dramatic, witness protection way, just quietly, with paperwork and fees and a new driver's license. My old surname was my father's, and part of me loved carrying it, but it was also the time my mother used every time she wanted to guilt me. You're a Johnson, you don't turn your back on family. I picked a new name that meant something to me, but nothing to her. The court clerk didn't care about my reasons. She just stamped a form and handed me a copy. "What about your mother?" my grandma asked once in one of the last conversations we had. "She'll be so hurt." She told everyone I was dead to her, I said. Dead people don't keep their parents updated on their mailing addresses. Which brings me back to that group chat message. By the time my cousin accidentally added me back in, I'd been gone for 8 months. Physically gone, emotionally walking it back in therapy every week. I had a small apartment with plants that I hadn't killed yet. I had coworkers who knew me as Anna, new last name, and didn't flinch when I said I was no contact with my family. I went to the farmer's market on Saturdays, bought too many peaches, sat in the park reading. It wasn't perfect. I still woke up some nights with my heart racing, my mother's voice in my head. But it was mine. I don't know what my cousin was trying to do when she added me. Maybe she wanted me to see. Maybe it was a genuine mistake, muscle memory adding Anna when someone mentioned my name. All I know is that my phone buzzed, I opened the chat, and there was my mother's sentence, preserved in pixels. As far as I'm concerned, Anna is dead to me. Below it, a few responses. Aunt Sandra, Claire, that's a horrible thing to say. Mom, I mean it. She's a liar and a snake. If anyone speaks to her, they can stay away from me too. Cousin Lily, can we please not do this here? And then the system message. Lily added Anna to the group. Followed by, Lily removed Anna from the group. I stared at it for a long time. My first reaction was that old, childlike wound. My mom said I'm dead. The second was something quieter and stronger. She has no idea she's right. Lily texted me privately a minute later. Lily, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to add you. Me, it's okay. I already knew how she felt. Lily, are you okay? Me, I'm weirdly fine. Please don't get in trouble on my account. We chatted a bit more. She told me Grandma's health was failing, that Mum was like a dog with a bone about my lies, that some relatives had started quietly calling out her behavior, but no one wanted to be the first to fully cut her off. Everyone is so scared of her tantrums, Lily wrote. You were brave to leave. I didn't feel brave. I felt like someone who'd run out of options. But maybe bravery sometimes looks like that, not a Hollywood speech, just 1,000 small decisions to walk away. In the years since then, I've doubled down on being hard to find. I've opted out of people search websites, sent remove me requests to data brokers, asked friends not to tag me in public posts. At the new job, I've told HR I have a do not disclose information flag on my file. If anyone calls asking if I work there, they're instructed to say they can't confirm. My mother has tried. I know because she's gone through other people. A mutual friend messaged me once. Your mom asked if I knew where you live now. I told her I didn't. My old landlord forwarded me a letter she'd left in my old mailbox, full of rage and sorrow and demands. She wrote, "You're killing me by staying away," as if I'd crept in with a pillow in the night. For a while, the guilt was suffocating. I'd stand in the aisle at the supermarket, staring at a brand of biscuits she liked, and feel this ache like missing a limb. I'd hear a song she used to hum while cleaning and have to sit down. But every time I was tempted to reach out, I'd remember the laundry room. The way she looked at me when I said I'd been hurt. The way she called me unstable and dramatic to protect a man she'd known for less than a decade, instead of a daughter she'd known my whole life. I don't know if I'll ever see her again. If Grandma dies and there's a funeral, I might go and stand at the back, late, leave early. I might not. I think about it more than I admit. There isn't one clean emotion. There's grief and anger and weird relief and a little sliver of hope that maybe in some parallel universe where she went to therapy and chose me, we could have had something different. But in this universe, this is what I have: a small, quiet life that doesn't revolve around managing her moods. Friends who believe me without needing a family tribunal. A therapist who reminds me, gently and relentlessly, that being born doesn't make you a permanent hostage. My mother told the entire family I was dead to her as a punishment. I made sure she would never find me as an act of self-rescue. Sometimes, late at night, I'll lie in bed and imagine my younger self, 10 years old, sitting on the edge of her bed while Mom rages in the next room. I imagine walking in, taking her hand, saying, "One day we get out. One day we don't have to bend ourselves into knots to keep her calm." I can't go back and save that kid, but I can honor her by staying gone.